Good day guys, Austin here, and in this one today we are pushing emulation to the limit. We are literally tasting nostalgia all over my face. It's less nostalgia face, that's what we're making. We are making original hardware play the games as they were intended, as we would have loved it back in the day. Of course, anybody can get a Raspberry Pi, anybody can throw shitloads of systems at it, and everybody can get bored within 5 minutes. Why? Because there's zero nostalgia there, because there's no love put in. It's literally throwing shit at the wall, hoping that it sticks, and then maybe get a few good games out of it, and then putting it to the back of the shelf and forgetting about it for the next 3 years. Well, these games don't deserve that. They deserve love, and the way that you get love is by showing love. And that's what I've done in these builds. I've literally taken the original hardware. I've taken the advantages that emulation gives you, so you can get specific builds to run without load times, save states, all that kind of stuff, without stripping back the nostalgia. Each one of these builds has a custom made front end which is oozing with the way it looked and felt back in the day. So when you're playing these, not only do your games actually make you feel part of it, but the front end does too. Each one of them works perfectly due to the way that it's been configured to the games, to the hardware, to the system that it's representing. And also, you can use your original pads, you can use your original keyboards, you can do everything that you could do on the original hardware in this emulation. And why? Because it looks good, it feels good, and most of all, it gives you those fuzzy vibes and the want to play these games like you did back then. If you were a little kid back then and you could have dreamt of what the future would be, this is it. This is the future. So let's not get these Raspberry Pis, get some generic theme and hope that games work. No, we're gonna give these games and these systems the love that they deserve. So in this video today, I'm gonna show you what I've done, what I've created, and what we're gonna do together in the next coming days. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. So first up then, we're going to get stuck into the ZX Spectrum 48K. I had to make this because it's my first ever computer. The rest of the world was going through some crazy crash, and I was loving it playing on my ZX Spectrum 48K, and what a gem it was too. The only competition that was out back then was the Commodore 64, and on my estate you either have one of these or one of them. And well, the Commodore 64 was for posh kids, so I had this little puppy. Now this is an actual recreation of the ZX Spectrum. They brought it out a few years back and it's pretty much useless. As you can see though, the case is nigh on identical except for the ports on the back. It is literally just a Bluetooth keyboard with a big hole in the middle to put whatever you wanted. Now I had to do some modifications to get the HDMI lead to come out the back. I've also changed the power port, and the little hole that you can probably see over on the right hand side is for an LED light that will show activity as to when the system is in use. But other than that, that is a complete recreation of the ZX Spectrum. Now these go for about $60, which is extortionate because it's literally just a Bluetooth keyboard. Without doing all these alterations, it's pretty much useless in real life. But once you do, you get this. Now I made this image. It's a clone, or as the base image I used Phil's Doodles Space Oddity. I completely rehashed it, changed all the logos, all the arts, the way it works. I just used that as the base so I had something to start from, and I came up with this. All the games are on here, they boot instantaneously. You have got a little splash screen before they boot, as you'll see in just a second. As of yet, I've got it to sort through favorites, so you can choose whatever favorites you want to put it in your own list. It's got all the games put in there, last played, and some other ones which you can add at your own will. Now, in terms of the theming, I used the original ZX Spectrum fonts. I tried to keep the layout as authentic to the ZX Spectrum kind of way of doing things. Yeah, I used the 128K as the list, but you know, I want to keep this yeah, authentic, but I also want to keep it as user friendly as possible so anybody can pick it up and get amongst it. You can use a controller or you can use the keyboard itself. When you use the keyboard, it uses the more generic way of Q and A for up and down, O and P for left and right, the way it was back then. But like I said, you can use a Bluetooth controller and it works just identical as if you had a real controller from back in the day. It only uses one button for everything because that's the way the joysticks were then. And yeah, it's authentic as I can get it. I've added the bezel, I've added it, making it look retro. You can turn all that kind of stuff off at your own will. You can add your own. It's just something to start with. I've tried to put as much stuff in there as possible. Now, those of you who are on my Facebook group, you've had access to this for some time. I give the link and you could have downloaded it and did whatever it is you wanted to do back then. Coming up soon, I've also added box art, so there will be an update to this image because I love this system altogether, so I will be adding to it whenever I get some new stuff. You as the community really got stuck in and added lots of media for me to put into this. It's just a case of me renaming things and, well, updating it as I get new stuff. But for now, this is what we've got and this is what I'll release in the full video coming out to you guys. So yeah, there you go, ZX Spectrum 48K. I love it.
Isn't this a school day?
So something that I've always wanted is this. This is a joystick, as you can see, arcade. This is top tier stuff, all Samoa, all excellent parts, but inside you have got a Raspberry Pi. Now this has been specifically made as a case to fit a Raspberry Pi. There's no hacking, no slashing, it comes with this from standard. This was sent to me by Monster Joysticks and it is a top tier bit of kit. Everything is as I wanted. Everything is, if I come up with this in my head, is exactly what I would like. It uses top grade stuff. It is a bit pricey, I think it's about 100 quid, but it comes up and it allows me to do things such as this. So I've recreated a complete new theme to go with this. It's arcade only and it does some special little things. Now something that I have to mention is the actual arcade symbol, as you can see there. That is made from the Artcade Handbook, a testament to artwork that was made for arcades, showcasing all the artwork marquees and the side art and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to take that and roll with it. So I made this so it does the same thing with the themes. So you scroll up and down, you select whatever game you want. If you hover over it for a second, it loads the actual theme, as you can see here, taken from the original artwork, from the marquee, the side art, the flyers. It's just beautiful, the artwork that was made back then. And the guys over, I'm sure you can recognize it, at Hyperspin, they made these themes over years and years, and I wanted something that showcased it off, because for an arcade setup, this is how things should be. Yeah, it's a bit garish, yeah, it's glitz and glam, but that's how arcades were. They showed you what the game was before you even played it. It's to entice you in, and that's something that I wanted with my arcade setup. Now, this behaves in a slightly different way from all the other ones. This is there as basically to entice you to play the game. So it's one big attract mode, not as in the actual front end, but in the way it works. So if you hover over a game, you play it, it will then show the theme for a matter of 1 minute. After that 1 minute, it will then show another random theme for 30 seconds a pop. So every 30 seconds it will show another one of these themes to entice you in to play the game, which is awesome because it showcases games that probably you've never seen before, and it shows you the original artwork that was for that game. And I just love the way it works. Now, if you was to press start when one of these themes is there, it will launch straight into the game that is showcasing. If you was to press up and down, it will go back to where you were, and then you can select your game that way. It's very intuitive in the way that I would like my arcade to work. So I've got this not only inside my little stick, which I just showcased, but also inside one of my arcade cabinets as well, because I think this is a beautiful way to showcase the artwork and the games as they were. Yeah, everybody can do a list, anybody can show gameplay, but when you see the artwork that was on these cabs, showcased in this way, where of course it's the original artwork, but it's given that modern touch because it's now animated, it now pops from the screen. You get all this wonderful artwork, not just presented to you, but also and really enticing you on each game to get you to play it. That's what makes this magical. And again, it's the guys over at Hyperspin who have spent these countless years making thousands and thousands of themes to go along with every one of the games that MAME can offer, plus all the consoles and things like that. But this one is only arcade related. I don't want to open that can of worms. Well, that's what we get here, which is a wonderful presentation of artwork from the arcades, able to play all the games on one simple device. And yeah, Monster Joysticks, you came through with this. I've been asking people to make these forever. Just a simple joystick with all top of the range parts I can put a Raspberry Pi inside of and make magic. That's the most simplest idea, and it's you first that came to the table, offered me a look at yours, and it's beautiful. Again guys, I'll cover this in a fully fledged video showcasing how to set the stick up, how to get the image up and running, how to work it, and all the bits that this entails, and of course everything that was made to make this magic happen. Because yeah, I've put all this together, but this has been drawn from so many different assets, from so many different parts in the community and the scene, all coming together to make this magic as one. So it deserves a dedicated video. So look forward to that then.
Re-experience the mind unbounded. Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
So back in the day, the Amiga was released. Now this was a computer, a home computer, which was touted as, well, to your parents, something that would help you do your homework. I literally know nobody from back in the day who ever did the homework on this. Yeah, it had some creative side to it all and everything, but 99% of everyone smashed games through this thing, and this was awesome at doing games. I mean, the amount of power that this little beast could have was unprecedented. I had a IBM 286 at the time and it was boring, but the other day the guys over at AmigaNet, they sent me this puppy out. It's a shell for an Amiga 1200. It's completely remade. I went out and I bought a replacement keyboard. It was battered, in worse condition than that you just seen. I retro-brighted it, I bent it back into shape, I repaired the actual key switches, and I built this. This is an Amiga 1200. However, on the inside is a Raspberry Pi. It may soon have an old droid. I don't know which way I'm going to go with this because there is added extras with that. But as of yet, this is powered with a Raspberry Pi. And of course, I've made a theme, which I'll talk about in just a second. But it's compatible with your original joystick. So here's my old Zippy stick or Competition Pro, whatever you want to call it. And also it's compatible with the old tank mouse too. So you can play all your games as they originally were on the Amiga 1200. Plus the CD32, the Amiga 500, 600, any Amiga you can play games on, it can play it on here. Now, the themes itself that I made, I took it from the inspiration of the boxes. It was simple, it was 2-color setup, and that's the way I wanted to make my layout, which you can see here. So I took the kind of styling, the theme, the retro look, and I recreated it into a front end. I was going to use the desktop from the workbench, but it looked too busy and cluttered. I wanted to keep it simple and pretty instinctive in the way it was used. So I used this simplistic way of using 2 colors for each layout. Now, the games themselves, every one so far has got a video, it's got box art, it's got wheel art. I do need to add and tweak and fix many of these, but as of yet, it's all there. I also need a way of getting the game information, in other words the metadata and all that kind of stuff to show up. As of yet, because of the way I have to implement these specific types of games into the RetroPie setup,
it doesn't scrape as normal, so I'm gonna have to do a workaround on that. So this is still work in progress at the moment, but I do theoretically know how to make the magic happen. So there is some tweaks and bugs I need to iron out, but it's almost there. In terms of playability though, this puppy plays everything. It uses not just Amiga discs, it uses the setup called WHD load. These are Amiga games which in many cases have been not so much remade but repackaged, so they load from the hard disk. If you owned an original Amiga back in the day, or even now, many people bought hard disks to actually put inside the Amiga so they didn't have to actually load from the discs. Yes, games at the beginning, they put in a disc and you play them, but as games got more advanced, they took up more space, which meant that you were constantly changing discs. Now with a WHD load, it means that it's almost like installing it onto a modern day computer, so all the disk information is already there, it's set up so it doesn't request disk all the time. It makes it simple, instinctive, and playing this a joy. Now the other thing is that because there are so many different variants of the Amiga and then different parts that you can put inside those different variants, game compatibility can be a bit of a chore when you loaded them from a normal emulator with the Amiga. You have to get the right build, you have to set the right CPU, there's so many different variables that it becomes a pain in the ass. WHD load make it so it comes with what's called a slave file, so all the information from the most compatible version of an Amiga is set within the game. So as you launch it, it automatically sets the emulator to play the game at its, well, most compatible and best speeds, which makes this, yeah, a pain in the ass to set up for someone like me or one of you guys getting amongst it, but an absolute joy once it does work because it's so stable, it plays everything, and I mean from the very first Amiga all the way up to the, probably, is it CD32, the most recent one? It's a beautiful way to do it, and now you can play it inside the original hardware from the Amiga, in my case an Amiga 1200. It's beautiful. Now don't worry, this is an expensive setup. To buy one of these cases you're probably looking at what, 120 quid just for a case. Then you're going to be looking at anywhere between 15 to 50 pounds for a actual keyboard to put in the case. Then you're going to need the bits to make it work. All of these I will cover in a video, to ways to get around this, and of course this fits, and the way I've done it will work in any Commodore computer. So you can use a cheaper Commodore 64, a cheaper variant of the Amiga, whatever it is you want. And of course, like I said at the beginning of all this, you can just use it using your own keyboard, Wi-Fi keyboard, normal PC keyboard. As long as it's USB, you're good to go. So yeah, again, too much information for this video, but this will be covered in great detail, in great depth, and I'll be sharing the image with you guys so you can get the most out of this also. As always though, I cannot share the games and the kicks because that's very naughty, but they're not that hard to find. Just Google WHD load and you'll see all the magic that is out there. This is the creme de la creme. I'm really going to push this one to the maximum. Once I've got it all set up, I'm going to be adding more systems, so this will be my go-to setup for actually retro gaming. Because it's got a keyboard, I can play all the computer games. Because it's got a mouse, I can play the mouse enabled games. And because it's got all the power and I've got enough space to put hard drives in there, this is going to house my entire collection within one setup. Yep, it's bulky, but what the hell, it's an Amiga 1200, something that I drooled over as a kid and something that I was so lucky to pick up as an adult when you can afford these. It's an amazing how expensive these puppies still are, but when you consider the amount of games, the amount of power, and what was made for this computer, it's absolutely beautiful. So I will show you soon my creme de la creme.
Here we have a normal, healthy young man. And here we have a fellow who's been experimenting with PlayStation for only a few minutes. Proof that we saps must be on our guard. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.
Because the PlayStation was pretty damn powerful. Everybody had one. Now, this was the first... It brought 3D graphics to the masses. It was the first system to really take control of it and push it to become 3D games actually becoming fun. Now, the original PlayStation I owned, this was a beautiful bit of kit, but this build that I've made is utilizing the new, the PS1, the Slim, the Mini, wherever it is you want to call this, because I think it fits this kind of setup more, because, well, there's no need for a big one. This actually also uses PS1 pads. You can put them in there. I can use wireless, but if you do use the originals, the rumble works, the analog sticks works, it works identical as the PS1 pads did. Now, it requires no soldering, no messing around. The only thing I had to do was cut the collars off to put it actually in the shell. I did need, obviously, a donor shell to make this all happen. However, I picked up one from a car boot sale or yard sale, whatever you call it, wherever country you come from, and it cost me like $3 for a non-working one. So, yeah, I managed to make this magic happen. I haven't as of yet made a front end for it. It does actually work. It's just using a generic one, so there's nothing to show you here. But in the future, I am going to theme one, so it just uses PlayStation games. I'm using a setup which is 200 gigabytes. That gives me about 400 games, and it's pretty much every game plus more that I've ever wanted to play. So if you're into the PlayStation, why not do it? It does everything with these exactly how it was back in then, and it plays the games perfectly. Elsewhere then, I've got this, which is the NES Classic. I've already done a video, links in the description down below. This takes advantage of the NES-Pi case. All the buttons work. You've got USB slots, Ethernet slot. Underneath, you've also got a little place to put your SD cards if you want to keep them safe. It's pretty much, if you're into the NES Classic and you want to push it, this is the way to go. Also, the front end that I made utilizes Rookage's theme. I added all the art, all the themes, all the metadata, and all the systems which I wanted to play. In the update, however, that I've been working on, I've added more systems so you can add it. So it's all themed identically together. All the same launch screens, the same boot up sequence, the same bezels, everything, so it all looks unified into one build. I've also updated all the metadata, all the media, as like I said, and it's pretty much my go-to thing for anything that is console retro related. It all is in one little slot. One of the other things that I've already made a video about, but something that I wanted to update, is this. This is the Sega Genesis build. Now this utilizes a USB hub that was licensed from Sega, and it's pretty much perfect, especially for putting a Raspberry Pi inside, because it has the USB slots on the front, just as the controllers were, and you can pretty much throw any system that the Pi can handle at it. So in this one, I added all the Sega systems, and it plays them down perfectly. Again, it plays them utilizing splash screens. It's got all the bezels. You're into Sega, and you're into especially Sega Genesis. This is beautiful, and I've tried to make a theme to suit that setup. Again, I've already made this, although I am updating it with all kinds of systems and added art, cleaning things up. Links in the description down below to the older video for this. But in the future, we will be updating. I have got loads in the pipeline. It takes me a while to build these themes. I try to make them system specific. Of course, anybody can get any kind of hardware. They can throw a Raspberry Pi inside of it and it makes magic. No problem with that whatsoever. But for me, I like everything to suit what it's made for. Does that make any sense? In other words, if I'm using a PlayStation, then I want the theme to look PlayStation. I want everything to look like it belongs where it should be. In essence, I don't want it to even look like it's running a Raspberry Pi. I want you to turn it on and look that professional, that it belongs to the system that it's working on. Everything is built specifically for that build. I want it so everything that I want to play Sega-wise runs from a Sega console. Everything computer-wise comes from a console or a computer that is built for that system. I just want it all to look beautiful and reminisce on, not just have the usability from the games, but also reminisce from the theme itself. Yeah, it's not authentic to the original operating system, but it still gives you that warm fuzzy glow inside. It still look at it and think, yeah, I loved that system back in the day. However, I've got all the crap that I didn't like from that system, i.e. the incompatibility, the loading times especially, even the cross your fingers and hope that a game launches kind of thing going on. It's all old stuff brought into the modern. And of course, in as many cases as possible, I don't want to hurt any of the original hardware that was released for that, because it still needs to exist, and that those things that can be fixed, I want them to be fixed so people in the future can enjoy them forever. The last thing I want is everybody to strip apart all kinds of stuff which needs to be preserved for history just to smash a Raspberry Pi, and that's not my way of going about it. If there's stuff that we can recycle, of course, but please never kill anything that you can salvage, remake, or bring back from the dead. It's not my ideology and all this kind of stuff. So hopefully that's opened a few more eyes, and look forward again, like all this stuff, into the future, because it's all on the way with dedicated videos. So please subscribe to take advantage of that. Lastly then, something that I would like to push out there. Now, I'm not one to push this kind of stuff, but I have a Patreon, and I've never really made it public. In other words, I've never really pushed it out in my videos or anything like that. Now, for the last few months now, it's been hard, my channel, with, I don't know, demonetization, the apocalypse. I'm in quite a grey area when it comes to all this kind of stuff. And, of course, a lot of my content is Nintendo. They claim every dime, near enough, of my channel. Which means that, well, I don't really see much of any kind of profit in there. Now, I don't run this for the profit, although everything that does come into my channel gets ploughed straight back into my channel. So, in other words, everything I receive, I use it on hardware, new games, new anything that I think would help push this channel forward. It also allows me to dedicate more time to actually making content. Over the last few months, with the little money that's been coming in, it's just been too much for me to, well, I've got to pay the bills at the end of the day, which means I've got to use my real job to earn the cash, and any spare time I can put forward goes into the channel, which means that it's taken quite the hit. Now, I would love to do this on a full-time basis, more than anything in the entire world. It would be my dream come true, but unfortunately life doesn't work that way. So I've decided to push Patreon. Now, of course, it's completely optional. Nothing that I will ever put on Patreon will be ever put behind a paywall. My stuff is always going to be completely free. I never want to use any underhand tactics such as AdFly. I don't even like affiliate links, because I think that can be a bit dodgy at times, but who knows, eh? I just want to keep this as clean, as simple, and as accessible to everybody, no matter if you donate or not, for everybody to use. There is some incentives for you guys who do use Patreon. It's not much, but it's all that I can give, to be honest, without putting things behind a paywall. Something, like I said, that I'd never like to go down. But the option's out there. So I've brushed upon it, guys. Think of it as a tips jar. I don't expect anybody to pay, and all of those who have paid, I completely am in your debt. You have gone far and beyond, and I appreciate everything that you guys as a community, not just monetary wise, but also the way you all just help out with everything I ever ask of you. It's unbelievable. It's all for you guys at the end. But as a mark of respect, I'd like to thank every one of my Patreons, and from this moment on, any video I upload, at the end I will, well, show everybody that's helped make that video possible. So in this one, I'd like to thank everybody that was involved so far this month in the patronage, whatever it is you call this kind of stuff. So Kintaro, huge thanks. That's a huge donation, $50 for God's sake. That's more than anybody has ever given me in my life, including Christmas. Other than that, then we've got Paul Cook, Big Ray, Ken Varley, Fool to Dream, Heath Phillips, Kevo, I think that's how you pronounce it, sorry mate if it's not, Matt Gardner, Tony Quirk, Mark Mandeville, Ed Case, and Christopher Barnett. You guys have been absolutely awesome. Without me even putting anything like this up, you guys have got stuck in and helped the channel no end. Hopefully in the future we can build it up. I've put, what can I say, ambitions of what I'd like in the side, because like I said, this is not for me to just go out and blow on the piss. This is for me to actually plow into the channel. I would like to do a weekly podcast with people who are actually developing, whether it be front ends, games, or actually developing emulators, to get them live onto the channel so you guys can get real questions asked and see what the person's like behind all this. I think that would be a great option for the scene. And also, well, all kinds of ideas. Just take a look anyway. I'm waffling on. But anyway, guys, it's been a pleasure as always. Please, even if you cannot donate or you don't want a tip or it's not your thing, no worries at all. Just please give me a like, subscribe, comment. Tell me about what you'd like me to do in the future. But most of all, you guys have a good day. Laters!